Joining us via Skype is economic expert Rodney Shakespeare. Rodney, thank you for joining us. Now, the Russian central bank is taking drastic measures, but what happens if the hike of 6.5% doesn't work, especially with reports suggesting that the currency is in freefall?
This present turmoil is due to, of course, the world deflation and the drop in oil prices, and the Americans taking the opportunity through their minions in Wall Street and the City of London to put the pressure on Russia. But you mentioned in your introduction 1998, and when Prime Minister Mahathir of Malaysia was upsetting the Americans by wanting to be independent, the same thing happened. There was a great collapse on the ringgit. But Mahathir took advice, which was because his fundamentals were sound, he could put on capital controls. And 3 years later, in 2001, Mahathir extracted a groveling apology from the IMF and the World Bank and the rest of them. And this will prove to be the situation with Russia. At the moment, it is opportunism and political pressure being done by the Americans. And I prophesy that Russia will come through this thoroughly sound, thoroughly okay, and it should take the opportunity to break away from the Western global financial system. Why should Russia worry about it all the time foreign investors? Why doesn't it use its own money supply? Why doesn't it go with its people it can trust? Instead, in fact, relying on America, the United Kingdom, France, none of whom that it can trust.
Now, Rodney, we know that the price of oil is a factor. If that continues to fall into 2015, is there much the central bank can really do?
Yes, it puts on capital controls. That was done in the case of Malaysia very successfully because the fundamentals were sound. What is happening at the moment is essentially a panic which has been initiated and carried out by Wall Street, acting in response to American political pressure. And if Russia has to put on capital controls, so what? It will be there for a temporary period, it will calm the situation, and it will remind everybody that ultimately Russia should start to rely on its own fundamentals. It's a very rich country, potentially. Rely on itself and rely on its friends and break away from the control all the time and the bullying of the Western financial system.
And we know that, I mean, obviously the ruble is falling, inflation is rising. How is this affecting Russian citizens?
Well, there may be some effects at the moment, but believe you me, there are other effects to come because you see, there is a deflation going on, and that eventually will affect everybody. And there are more crises to come. This oil price, lowering of this oil price, believe you me, after Christmas, there are going to be big ructions, and many, many people are expecting the next collapse in the American economy and indeed the Western economy. So those who are crowing gleefully now, saying there's trouble for Russia, well, they'd better watch it, because come the new year, there's going to be trouble for them, perhaps more than there is trouble for Russia.
Rodney Shakespeare, economic expert, thank you very much for joining us today.